In the vast golden plains of the south, a roar cuts through the silence. SEKEKAMA, the colossal king, conquers not only territory but fear. An empire is born. And so is a betrayal. Without warning, he abandons SATAU and her sister in the north. Isolated, exiled. And what seems like a mistake is the beginning of a revolution. As he consolidates his rule, he makes a decision that would forever shift the balance of the kingdom. He abandons SATAU and her sister in the north. Without warning, without return. For SATAU, exile marks the beginning of a transformation. The queen left behind finds herself surrounded by swamp and drought, but she is not alone. SATAU becomes a symbol of resilience in the heart of the desert, with the weight of 3 betrayals, from her brother, from former allies, and from nature itself. She does not succumb. She watches, calculates, feeds a silent revenge. In isolation, she builds a new identity, no longer just a betrayed lioness but a force waiting for the right moment to strike. Far from SEKEKAMA's sight, a network begins to form. SATAU finds in the exiled lionesses and nomadic lions a new kind of loyalty, not based on tradition but on shared pain. The renegades, once scattered, begin to follow her lead. The dry swamp, marked by carcasses and survival, becomes fertile ground for conspiracy, while SEKEKAMA establishes himself as the central pillar of an expanding empire. He overlooks a crucial detail. The most dangerous threat doesn't come from outside, but from within his own bloodline. 9 sons of SATAU grow up in the north with the king's blood, but a different destiny, and soon the quiet edges of this hidden conflict will begin to tremble. In the drought-scorched savannas, SEKEKAMA's sons begin their journey of leadership. Young, impetuous, and thirsty for glory, they face a lone nomadic lion and defeat him with ease. The triumph sparks a dangerous illusion in them. They believe they are ready to inherit the throne. But true power does not reveal itself in easy victories, and the kingdom would soon begin to test them in ways they never imagined. With the arrival of the drought, the once vast and fertile territory begins to shrink. Water sources evaporate, prey migrates, and resources become scarce. Pressured by a hostile environment, the king's sons are forced to abandon parts of the land. Migration, once unthinkable, becomes a necessity. And with it, tension among the heirs begins to rise. Internal disputes grow as leadership is questioned. The shadow of SEKEKAMA still dominates the kingdom, but the young lions, inflamed by pride, begin to clash. Driven by expectations but inexperienced in the throne's true demands, they become vulnerable. The relentless drought exposes more than just dry land. It reveals cracks in the king's legacy. Meanwhile, beyond the visible borders of the kingdom, watchful eyes observe. The north, still silent, holds open wounds. SATAU watches from afar the conflicts among SEKEKAMA's sons, aware that instability may be her greatest ally. What began as a dispute among brothers could pave the way for something much bigger and far more dangerous. After months of silence, SEKEKAMA returns. His roar echoes through the plains as a reminder that the true king is still alive and watchful. He finds Matsumi, his queen, under threat from a nomadic lion. Without hesitation, he intervenes. The clash is quick, brutal. The intruder retreats, and SEKEKAMA reasserts his place as absolute leader. SEKEKAMA's presence rekindles both respect and fear among his own. In times of drought and internal strife, his figure represents order. But behind the appearance of stability, the land is simmering. The exiled lionesses move closer to the kingdom's edges, and with them, memories of a past many would rather forget. Matsumi, now under the king's protection, also carries her scars. She knows the crown doesn't bring only safety, it brings old enemies too. As strong as SEKEKAMA may be, he cannot control every threat. While he protects his queen, he barely notices the trap forming around him. A trap from where he least expects. On the horizon, almost imperceptible movements signal the approach of dormant forces. SATAU watches. The rejected lionesses find new paths. The nomadic lions sniff out opportunity. And while SEKEKAMA celebrates the reclaiming of his throne, a new game of power begins silently to unfold around him. In the north, the winds of revolt gain strength. SATAU, now more than an exiled queen, becomes the architect of a new offensive. Her 9 sons, born of past alliances, move toward SEKEKAMA's kingdom. They try to infiltrate, seeking a place among the southern princes. But the attempt fails. The response is violent and final. They are expelled, humiliated before their own bloodline. The rejection does not discourage SATAU. It only refines her strategy. She knows she won't defeat SEKEKAMA alone, so she turns her eyes to the nomadic lions. Solitary, wandering, many of these males roam aimlessly after losing their battles. Satau draws them in with promises, not of territory, but of a new kingdom where they could be true kings. These lions have no ties to the past. They are ambitious, unpredictable, and fierce. Satau manipulates them with precision, using the same gift that kept her alive in exile, the art of forming unlikely alliances. The combination of power-hungry lions and rejected lionesses creates an unprecedented threat. The structure that upholds SEKEKAMA's rule begins to creak. Meanwhile, SEKEKAMA himself remains confident in his consolidated power, but what he doesn't see is that the dispute is no longer just about territory. It's a battle for legacy, for justice, or for some, for pure revenge. And in the shadows of the swamp, a new generation prepares the next move. In the hope of consolidating power, Satau joins forces with a new nomadic lion. The alliance seems promising. He is strong, fearless, and agrees to be part of the strategy to reclaim the kingdom. But jungle instincts are volatile. When the cubs are born, what should have been the rebirth of a legacy turns into tragedy. The male, driven by territorial impulses, kills his own offspring. The betrayal is brutal but not new in Satau's life. This is already the third abandonment she has faced, each one crueler than the last. And yet, she remains, rigid like the dry soil of the swamp. From pain, something sharper than hatred is born, the need to rewrite her destiny. She gathers 4 rejected lionesses, mothers without cubs, females without a home. Together, they are not just survivors. They become strategists, ready to act outside the rules of the traditional throne. The drought that plagues the territory no longer affects only the bodies, but also the alliances. In a setting where weakness means death, the union between exiled lionesses and nomadic lions becomes a weapon, a lethal weapon. Satau is no longer just trying to reclaim a throne. What she seeks now is justice, or something more primitive, more visceral. The line between royalty and revolt dissolves, and while SEKEKAMA relies on brute force to maintain his kingdom, what forms in the shadows is something much more unpredictable, and it's about to explode. Within the kingdom, what was once reverence begins to turn into resentment. SEKEKAMA's favored sons, molded in their father's shadow, feel the weight of his authoritarian presence. They grew up under strict orders, never as free princes, but as soldiers in service of the throne. The pride of the king, which once protected them, now oppresses them, and conflict soon emerges. Tension turns into physical clash. Silent rebellions become direct confrontations. When the line is crossed, the sons turn against SEKEKAMA, not just as a father, but as a king. The response is ruthless. They are banished. And what should have been the blood of his own legacy now becomes his greatest enemy. The renegades. These young exiles do not leave alone. They carry with them part of the royal pride and join the exiled lionesses, forming a new clan, a hybrid group with deep wounds and a thirst for revenge. They fight not only for territory but for recognition, for the crown that was denied to them, and for the chance to bring down the empire that rejected them. Meanwhile, SEKEKAMA's kingdom, weakened from within and threatened from without, begins to crumble almost imperceptibly. But those who watch closely can already see the structure is unstable. And amid the drought, the swamps, and the territorial disputes, a new balance of power begins to form, in the shadows, on the verge of collapse. Now tell me, after all this, do you still think kings always win? Or is it possible that sometimes, it's in the shadows of exile that true empires begin to rise? What would you do if you were SEKEKAMA? Would you have acted differently with Satau? Or was the kingdom's fate sealed from the very first betrayal? I want to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below. This story raises many questions and every perspective brings a new reading. So, let's talk. Whose side are you on in this dispute? The colossal king or the exiled queen? And if you love diving deep into real stories like this one, full of strategy, pain, redemption, and power, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. There's a lot coming your way. And trust me, you won't want to miss what's next.